Hello team, welcome to another video. This time we're going to talk about design thinking and how it can help businesses achieve business goals. I know in the past we've spoken about design thinking versus design sprints, or how to use design thinking in your work life in general, or just life in general. Today I'm going to talk about design thinking and how it can help businesses. So hopefully you enjoy it. First of all, let's understand what design thinking is. To keep it simple and straightforward, essentially design thinking is at its core creative problem solving, but using human-centered approaches. You're putting your user, your customer, the human within the environment as the center of the operating model in your design thinking process. We'll go through the steps that's involved in design thinking. If you do some research online, there's different versions of this. I am specifically going to go through the 6 steps version of design thinking, which starts with the first one is understanding. So you first need to understand the customer. Design thinking puts a heavy focus on the user. So understanding the user, the customer, is really the first point of design thinking. When we talk about the customer or the user, what are the things that we want to understand about them? First and foremost, it's behavior. What are the facts about them? What are their pain points, which is very, very important. And ultimately, the reason why you want to understand all of that is because you wanted to get to understanding their needs. So the more you understand the needs of your customer, the better it will be for this process. Secondly, what you want to do is to define goals and define the challenge. So before even starting the process, what you want to do, or if you're in a small team environment, what you want to do is to write down the goal. What is it here that we're tackling? What sort of challenge are we tackling? And when you put that into paper, or it's recorded somewhere, whether it's digitally or really just on a piece of paper, as I was saying, it doesn't really matter. But the important thing is for you to be able to go back to it, have that as an anchor within the process, and you can always go back to what you've written and understand whether you still align with the goal that you've decided as a team. So defining the goal, defining the challenge is a key one. So once you've defined the goal and understood what the challenge is, what you want to do is ideate, which means you can come up with ideas of solutions or different options of solutions or different approaches to what a solution may be. You can do this individually, or if you're in a team environment, you do it collaboratively in a co-design method. But essentially what you want to do is come up with different ideas, explore the possibilities of solving this particular problem in order for you to be able to achieve that goal or the challenge, or solve the challenge. So once you've ideate some ideas with your team members or just by yourself, you may end up with a couple or 3 different versions of a solution. One of the things a design thinking process would encourage you to do is to decide on a winning solution. So a way to do this is for you to vote on the most appropriate or the best solution for the challenge. You may do that as a group with a voting system, which I won't dive into right now. But essentially, as a group, you want to decide on the solution for you to move forward with, and therefore, you are able to focus on prototyping or testing that idea. So the next step, as I said, is to prototype your idea. Essentially what you want to do is you just want to have enough to be able to test the idea. You're not trying to implement or execute it. So if we take web development or web design as an example, what you want to do is create a clickable mock or a mock-up that is of screens that are being stitched up together in order for you to be able to test its flow, get an experience out of it, or test it with your users, test it with your clients. Essentially, that's you prototyping an idea and just testing the hypothesis that you have without having to go down the rabbit hole of development or really implementing and spending more money at that point just yet. And the 6th step in this context is really for you to validate, because you've had your prototype. What you want to do is go and test it, whether it's with a customer or multiple customers, your stakeholders, your clients, or whoever it may be. But at least you go and try and test the idea, whether it works, whether it has some flaws, whether there is an opportunity for you to iterate and change the flow or change the design or change the color of that button, whatever it may be. But the idea is we prototype something that requires less effort, but it allows you to be able to find out mistakes or opportunities early, and therefore you could address that before investing further time, more money in the process. And by the way, guys, I just wanted to take a moment and thank you for all of the comments, all of the positive ones. And To be honest with you, I don't get a lot of negative comments, which is great. Like when I started a YouTube channel, when we started all of this, I was ready to accept any negative comments that you may have, but it's actually really, really great so far. You guys have been so friendly. And so I just wanted to thank you for all of that. And hopefully all of the content and these videos that we're creating for you and the tactical advice that we've given you has been helpful in your process, whether that's you becoming a product designer, a UX designer, or really simply just trying to explore options for yourself, or just doing research in the process. So hopefully that's been helpful so far. If it has, we would appreciate a like, a subscribe, maybe share it with your friends, your colleagues who would find this beneficial. Now, I wanted to get into a small case study, a small business here in Australia that we work with. They're called Snooza. They create beautiful dog beds. The website is snooza.com.au. Have a look at that. And if you are in the market for a dog bed for your pooch, please go online and check out Snooza because they've got beautiful products. Anyway, I wanted to talk about what they've done as a small business, being able to utilize something like design thinking in order to achieve greater revenue, particularly pre and during pandemic, and also post-pandemic. So these guys have been very strong in the online space. The goal was really just to create a better e-commerce website experience that will lead into better sales and revenue, which means in the e-commerce world, we just know it as better conversions. And there are ways into how to do that. So it all started with an existing website that requires a redesign, which we've helped with. Our company here at Relab helped Snooza to do that. And one of the first things to do is really just to sit down and understand the stakeholders' perspectives. And so we've invited the owner of the business, a few directors in there, the managers, just to sit down around a table to talk about what is it that they're wanting to achieve in terms of a goal, and then identify what are the most important goals, and also understand things that could prevent that goal from happening. And so by doing that, and we call this the experts interview or a stakeholder interview as part of a design thinking process, we are able to align what are the expectations from a top line perspective, from a business point of view. So that's the first important step that was taken. And once we've done that, we summarized what a long-term goal could be for the business before we jump into co-designing a solution together with the business. So when we say co-design, that means it's not just the designers doing it, but it's the designers and everyone else that's involved in the business or who needs to be involved in the business would design a solution together. We've previously done a video about co-design, which we will share a link as well down below in the description. Once we've done that, we would go and test it with real users who are pet owners in this case, work through the problem systematically, trying to collaboratively understand what insights do we get out of a research. And from there, that allows us to be able to focus on certain things that matters the most to the customer. So for example, out of a research, we discovered there's a pattern where everyone's saying A and B, and that C, D, and E does not even matter, although initially the business thought that was important. But it allows us to focus on one or two important things and focus on the investment in that area as opposed to more than that, whereas now we know because of research, feature number C, D, or E won't bring a lot of value to the users. Okay, so hopefully that was a simple explanation about design thinking and how businesses can apply it. What it really is really just, as I said, putting the users in the focus of the process, but also being able to systematically work through a challenge in order for you to get from point A to point B. Therefore, you can get from point B to C more effectively as well, while reducing risks as you go through the process. One thing that I wanted to leave you with, though, that it's so important to have a mindset that everything's about learning and everything's about progress. And in the context of design thinking, there's no perfection at all that you're trying to achieve. In fact, there is no such thing as perfection. So what you're trying to get out of the process is just really constant learning. Therefore, you're able to iterate in the most reasonable way, considering other risks around the business. But once you consider all of that, the different perspectives, co-designing a solution with everyone rather than just yourself, the more you involve the important people that are relevant to the subject or the challenge, the more beneficial it is for the process. And in order for you to do that, you need a facilitator that can do that for the business. It can come from the client side or from from your side if you're an agency. But as long as you have a facilitator, you have a decider from the business's side, then hopefully you can work together really, really well and go through the process quite effectively. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. If you have any questions around this, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll be more than happy to answer you. All right.